for this particular parade going forward each year. Obviously, we won't have a certain set date, but we would probably need to take formal action. There wasn't I don't believe there's an actual written document per se, other than there was a council agenda item in consideration and approval. So I think if you wanted to amend that policy, you'd probably need to do so by a specific motion.
The
To add.
third Saturday in June.
It doesn't necessarily have to be the third Saturday, it's just the 19th is Juneteenth, so it could be
Right.
the Saturday before or the Saturday after if that's an issue.
And see, that's the same flexibility that we have with the July 4th parade.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not on the 4th for some reason.
Right.
It's like on a Sunday.
Right.
But otherwise, it is. And staff has the leeway to be able to set those dates
Okay.
appropriately. The other parades, homecoming parade, that type of thing.
Okay.
So what we have before us today is the motion and the second to approve this as it stands. And I'll call the question on that. All
That's
those
it.
in favor?
So that's for a single
Aye.
event.
Yes, single event.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, so thank you.
Thank you.
So I would instruct staff to come back at a future date with a policy revision so that we can add this into that rotation of the approved parades. So
Yes,
thank you
sir.
very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you being here. So the next item is a request by, or from, By Any Means Production Company to film in downtown Newnan. You have this request in your agenda, and it has a lot of moving parts to it. So I would ask, who's staff on this? Hi, how are y'all?
Hey, good afternoon, y'all. Thanks for having us.
Sure. If you'll identify yourselves for the record, please.
Yes, sir. I'm Kyle Henshaw. I'm the location manager, and Jenny Ivers here is the key assistant manager that's going to be heading up operations here in Newnan. Yes, sir.
We appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
Okay?
Should we just get
Yeah. just
fill you in
step-
a little bit?
step us
Sure.
through. Yeah, that'd be great.
We were hired by Any Means Incorporated to produce a film called By Any Means. It's starring Mark Wahlberg. We have a 28-day production schedule, and four of those shooting days we would like to shoot in the Newnan area. The project is a civil rights era crime thriller set in 1966 Mississippi, so we would not be depicting Newnan as Newnan, Georgia. It'd be Hattiesburg, Mississippi, as well as Jackson, Mississippi in certain scenes. There's a creative need for period-correct environments due to the time, the era of the film. So we will need to achieve a reversal of time, if you will, throughout some of these areas that we're targeting in Newnan through set decoration, art-directed signage, and dressing in some vintage vehicles for our shots. We have over $100,000 allocated in site fees for rentals, community impact, and general economic development, or what we in the state would consider economic development. Newnan's obviously a bustling town. We will be requesting to utilize some city property for parking and pay whatever necessary fees along with the permits that come along with that. We're actively engaging with, early on with law enforcement officers and GDOT District 3 to talk through some of our requested impact to the roads coming through downtown Newnan. So with all that kind of leading out, I just wanted to pass it over to Jenny Ivers, who will kind of walk you through our proposal here.
Hello. So this is our schedule that we have listed up here on this PowerPoint. The first place that we're starting, Friday, April 11th, hasn't been chosen yet. We looked at a few options today outside of town. One of them being Martin Mill Road. I don't have that pictured because we had just scouted that this morning, and I'll continue to update once we get some selections. You can see it in the small there. We're planning on doing that between 12 and 7, and then we would move to this neighborhood in Cole Street, where we would film the rest of our day, which would be around 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. It's our goal to work with the church on the corner to put our trucks off of Cole Street, since it's a rather small and narrow pathway, and that way residents can come and go during our filming safely. The scene would require road closure, since what's happening in the scene is people are walking in and out of their houses. And it would be at night, so we're working with the people that live on that neighborhood who have small children or have work in the morning for the option to stay elsewhere, which we would cover that cost, as well as consideration for the impact on that. So it would require a road closure, and then intermittent traffic control on Washington, just so as the camera's looking that direction, we don't see modern cars driving through, as it is a 1966 production. Are there any questions about this, or may I proceed to the next slide?
Anyone?
I want to look at the map because I think I know exactly where you're talking about, but I can't see.
Yeah,
It's a
it's,
historic row of old row houses
Yeah.
off of Washington.
it's northeast of town.
See exactly where you are.
While he's looking at that, and I don't remember if I saw it in there, do you have rain days proposed for this filming?
We don't yet. We're still kind of filling in the rest of our schedule that would have cover. So we're scouting still to get a lot of our locations done. Newnan has been chosen early as we're able to kind of meet the deadlines for what's coming. Once we know where in our schedule we could move to cover and what alternate dates would work for our cast, we can certainly propose those. Ready, next slide. So then we're not going to work over the weekends. Any signage that we have prepped, we would cover, especially if it were, rather sensitive imagery. So starting on Monday, we have a scene that is what we're creating to be Jackson as a bus stop. So on Spring Street, we would need, in yellow here is depicted the parking lanes so that we can park picture period picture cars. And it's a short scene where a bus will pull up, cast will get on and off, and then we'll move on. It's slated for about an hour and a half of work. So I've listed a little bit of a range outside that for 6:30 a.m. to 9, just so that we can get our police in, get set up, get safety, film, and then, be able to have a little bit of window in case there's a little bit of a delay getting started or moving. The intermittent traffic control would be just for safety and also for making sure that no period cars were coming through. So that's what's listed there in blue, and once we're done, we're gonna move off of this, and the Spring Street would be open. So ideally, we'd be off that section by 9 a.m. Then after that, the same day, we'd be moving down to East Broad. Again, same scenario, we're gonna be creating it to be a bus stop, but this would be Hattiesburg. So similar setup where we've got the parking lanes for the bus to pull in, we're gonna create a bus stop, and then intermittent traffic control outside that. The road closure here extends a second block just so that the bus can go through safely in that intersection. And again, this work is slated for about an hour and a half, maybe less, and so I've got a little bit of a range in time, 9 to 12, just to cover the move over, getting set up, getting the police in position, and making sure that it stays safe for both our crew and the community while we're working. Our schedule has it ending around 11, so the 12 o'clock just has it to where we can be packing up, getting to safety, and then we would open the roads back to the community. Following Monday, then we would be moving back around the corner. This is the biggest request, as East Court Square here is also a state route. We have spoken with GDOT and gotten that permit going. They did request to move forward further in the permit application with them. We would need a letter from the city giving their blessing that the state would, because the state kind of defers to the local municipalities here. This would be through evening rush hour, so we would be hopefully moving to this area around 11, getting set up, rolling by 12, and what we have is two scenes here. One is a car is going to be driving the wrong way down the one way to immolate that it's two ways in Hattiesburg and North Square, which is why the road closure extends from Madison to Spring, so that we can safely get it set up and reset several times. The Broad Street and North Court Square intermittent traffic control is also just for safety, so when that car is going the wrong way, we don't have anyone coming opposite. We're hopeful that the parking lanes here that we're requesting are all that we'll need so that we don't have to impact the community so severely with it being lunch hour. I know that it's very hot in there trying to get anything, parking to go get something to eat in town. So we're working with the people that will be directly on these spaces, as well as working with them in terms of the graphics for how we're gonna be dressing the era to depict 1966. So they will be, if it's approved, we'll be working with them on how it will impact our business and what we can provide to mitigate those losses.
The other thing I'll just point out too is the times may overlap on this document, but we would never be doing each you know, we would leapfrog these sets, so not each section, no section would be closed more than one at a time. Yes, sir.
Did you talk to the school system about their buses coming down?
We would allow buses through, so emergency vehicles, fire trucks,
I mean,
ambulances.
school buses, they, you know, go up and down that road probably from, what, 2:30 till 4, something like
Yeah,
that.
we would let those through. If the car were actively coming the wrong way, we would wait to get that off the road, and then we would let the buses through. If it was an emergency vehicle, they would just pull over immediately and then be able to pull through.
Are there any other vehicles, like public transport or something like that we should be aware of? Okay.
So this would be Monday.
So, a question, you're using Newnan Police Department for traffic control,
Correct.
We would be, yes, sir.
okay?
We have a traffic control company that would bring the barricades, the cones, the detour signage, which I've given those traffic control plans to the chief of police already, and so they're reviewing those. And any minor alterations that we need to make it more safe, we certainly will.
Sarah, is there a thought behind that statement, sir?
Just a clarification.
Yeah, we'd be working with local law enforcement, yes, sir.
So that scene, the request to close during rush hour has been precedented from a previous show that shot in this town. So again, GDOT is kind of leaning towards y'all's comfortability on that. We also have spoken about if traffic were to build to a degree that seemed unsafe, we would hold what we were doing and bleed the traffic for 15 to 20 minutes to reduce the congestion that was building up in the town at that time. That way, we could then reset and go again.
That would be officer discretion as well.
Yes.
3:30 when school lets out, it'll back up, I guarantee you.
So that would be our second day, Monday, April 14th here in Newnan. Are we ready to go the next day? Any questions?
I do have a question. I need for you to clarify when you say you are working with the Newnan Police Department. Now, it's my understanding that you would be hiring off-duty officers. Is that what you determine or as working with?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
so,
We've
okay.
provided a preliminary police schedule according to the traffic control plans that we've submitted, and they're reviewing to either add or adjust what we're requesting so that they are comfortable with the safety for the community as well as our team.
So my next question would be to Chief. I already noted your concern about the traffic, et cetera, and the impact, I think it was. Are there enough off-duty officers that would be available for this type of impact on, and how would that infringe upon their working schedules?
We can make it work. It's definitely challenging because that Saturday we have our critorium or crit race downtown, which takes
Right.
a lot of personnel. So
Right.
The project's a challenge itself. It's doable, but it's definitely going to be a challenge. There are some concerns we have with this one shot. One is, which she's correct, we've just had a preliminary talk and we've been reviewing what they've sent us, but there's further work would have to be done to make this particular scene work. One, when you're doing a road shutdown on a state route like this, we have to deal with our semi-traffic. So you have to go all the way to the south end of town. There's other matters that we need to address to make sure that it could even happen. And keep
So it not
everybody
only
safe.
just impacts 29 or 27 through town there, it can really spread out and impact a broader area, would be my understanding, right?
It would, this basically would be a reroute similar to what we'll have on Saturday for the crit on this one side of the square. You would have to implement a detour route in that manner to get the traffic. That roadway, you can't just shut the state route down and not have a good detour in there. It would be a heavy traffic.
So again, clarification, the crit is on the Saturday before this, not
Right,
the
12th.
next Saturday,
That's right.
the 12th.
Correct.
That's my question. What were the other two dates that you had in there? This is 14th, which is Monday, but one of them was it a Saturday?
It was a Friday. It
Friday.
was the 11th.
Okay.
The preceding Friday. Yes, sir.
I just have a comment. To me, when we shut down Newnan, and I really appreciate the city of Newnan shutting down the streets like the Juneteenth and the parade and the road races and the crit, Christmas parade, to me, when we go to that energy and we shut down our streets, it's a time for our community to come together. And so it usually are free events, and we love people coming in and participating in that shutdown event. And, you know, I've never really, at first I was really excited about the movies when they came to Newnan, because I felt like, oh my God, Noonan's on the map, you know? But then, over the years, and maybe, you know, maybe I got some money for a rental here and there, but what I heard from our tenants is the drama that we go through with, they're like, well, why are we shutting down? We're not really getting any benefit. And the other thing is, from our citizens, they're not really getting to come down and participate in this event. In fact, the movies really don't want these people hanging around inside their business, and I get that, compared to other events where we encourage the local citizens to get down to the event. So I agree, we've got the CRIT, which is going to shut down the businesses in Newnan. And then if it's Friday before, that's going to impact them somehow. Now we're talking about Monday. And just on a big macro picture, I just don't get why the city shuts down for movies anyway. So I appreciate y'all's presentation. I appreciate movies. I love going to movies, but I just haven't heard enough and hadn't seen enough over time to really see the benefit of all the drama that we go through when we shut down our downtown.
It's been several years since we have seen anything this impactful in downtown. Years ago, we had, there was a level that the council said, okay, we're gonna give staff permission up to this level, because we were just inundated with the small things and didn't really need. I mean, we've got a very professional staff. They know what we need. And they came to us and said, let us help you out, and we agreed.
People viewing at home. Obviously, the city of Newnan had entered into a letter of intent with Caldwell Development Investments to go through some programming feasibility. We're at the stage now to where CDI is here today to present their concept plan to council inside of the LOI, and not at today's work session, because today's work session is for presentation only and discussion Q&A. But the next step will be to give an approval, thumbs up or thumbs down, to the concept plan. If a thumbs up is given to the concept plan, then the LOI says you would go into entitlement, but I believe what you're going to hear today, that the property is fine as entitled, so would not need a rezoning. So the next step after that, if this body approved, would be to enter into the purchase and sale agreement, which would be a three-body agreement between the city, CDI, and Newnan Development Authority. So I think Tom Crimes is here on behalf of CDI.
Mr. Grimes, how are you?
Doing well, doing well.
Good.
Thank you. Good to see you all this afternoon.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. We're excited to share with what we've learned over the last several months. Again, I'm Tom Crimes. I'm leading up a group that we call CDI, which ultimately will be a group of local investors that, if this project moves forward, then they will help steer it on my side and fund it on my side as well. And they're all excited to see if the city finds it as appealing as we do. As Mr. Phillips mentioned, we're here today to show you our vision that I guess we presented this back to you in November, and so we're here to kind of formalize it. We have a letter of intent that has an official date of December 2nd, so today is step one. I'm here to answer any questions that once we show you the plan that kind of explain what our thinking was. We think we've addressed lots of the concerns, and again, we're excited to share this with you today. Oop, I need to turn this, I'm sorry. I'm not used to doing all this pieces. This, again, this is who we are, and kind of why we're here is to talk about this development. Our vision in Newnan is, or for this site, is to align with Newnan's. It's not to come in and do anything startling. It's to really complement what we all know and love about Newnan. We are intending to create something that expands the business footprint in downtown area. We want to bring businesses down here. We have several that are committed to move in here. They're not exactly sure when it'll be, but they're excited with the plan that we've shared so far. It obviously creates jobs. But as you know, I guess the city is working in tandem with Red Hill Development. Is that the Courtyard Hotel? hospitality. And we've met with him on multiple occasions to make sure our vision aligns with his and yours as well. So he will have as big an impact as we will. That thing we all love about Newnan, as you mentioned in the last bit of the meeting, is we love the downtown and the walkability and the merchants so our goal is to create something that continues that thought. And it also brings a piece of the link through it, and so that we continue to support that vital piece of a linear park that we find so appealing. And we're encouraging local businesses to expand back to the square. There's really not much vacant space, and so what you'll see here in a minute are some opportunities to bring some businesses, large and small. The smallest units are as small as 900 square feet, and the largest are as large as 10,000 feet. So we're making it scalable to anyone that has interest. As Mr. Phillips mentioned, the LOI that we both executed was on December 2nd. It had 3 steps. This today is step 1. That is all that we're interested in at this point, unless you want to do more. The step is for the city council to formally approve the development plan that then moves us into step 2 and 3. But it's here just to show you everything we've come up with, get your feedback so that if we need to adjust it in any way, then we surely can and consider it. And then the next final step will be the agreement to purchase and sell the property. And please interrupt me at any time along the way. I tend to get carried away and talk pretty fast, but I want to give you a little history of what we've done in the last 90 days. We have been busy behind the scenes trying to ensure that this is going to be a successful development. We've taken some of the studies that the city has done initially over the last, I guess, couple of years on what the city was interested in and tried to blend that into a development that supports and we can all get excited about. So we've tried to bring in all those pieces. We've presented to the Downtown Development Authority a similar presentation just to make them aware, because we were under the impression that there will be a portion, there'll be party to this moving forward. So we wanted them to just be aware of what was going on. We've met with Newnan Utilities to talk about water, sewer, power, and used to be data, but again, that piece will, we've ensured that can all, the connectivity there. We've learned some interesting things about the sewer and water system in downtown Newnan, and they've made us aware, and this is an opportunity to improve some systems that are in place while we bring all that infrastructure to this site. We've met with other future developments, sitting here in the front row.
Could you back up just a second?
Yes, sir.
You say they made you aware that this is an opportunity to improve some systems?
Yes, sir.
Is that on them?
Some of it is on them, most of it is on this development. Some of the water to the site is,
There's some pressure issues.
there's a pressure issue to put a fire sprinkler system into the 4-story hotel. The buildings we're doing are of lower elevation, so it's not as big a concern, but there's some pressure issues there. They will work with us doing their portions off the site and our portions on the site.
Right, okay.
We've not gone too far down that path yet because we wanted to get this master plan approved, and so upon its approval, we moved to the more specific answers.
Oh, thank you.
We've met with other developments in the downtown city area just so we can see if there's any synergies there designed to make it all look and flow through the Andrew Street corridor. Not sure where that stands, but again, we just wanted to share with what we were doing and what he was doing to see if they could all blend together. We want to make this all look like purposeful. We've gone and done geotechnical studies of the site to ensure that it can support the 4-story building for the hotel. Again, most of the buildings that you'll see in the plan in just a moment are 2-story buildings, which are not so structurally complex, but we wanted to make sure that the site would support the hotel, and all that seems to work out well. We've done topographic studies, and we've engaged a civil engineer to make sure our grading fits the topography that's there and the connectivity through to Spring Street and all that. Let me see. We've worked with an architect who's here today, Jefferson Brown, and he's helped us do some elevations of what these buildings most likely will look like. You'll see in a moment, we'll send an animation so you can kind of walk down the street of what it's going to propose to be. And so we don't have the talent to be that creative, but I hope you're impressed with what you see. We've again coordinated with Mr. Emmett of Courtyard on multiple occasions. The next item is interesting. One of the buildings we intend to put down there is a market, a food hall, a focal point for outdoor and indoor engagement. And so 2 months ago, I knew very little about food halls, and I now know a great deal more, and I still have a lot more to learn, but we've engaged several different consultants to ensure that the product will be successful. Initially, the group we've talked with, they run the food hall in Auburn called Heyday Market. It's a group called Ithaca Hospitality. We met with Politan, which is another group that runs Colony Square. Now, those are all large, successful areas, but our concern was that Newnan was going to be so different that it might not be as successful, and we met with them on multiple occasions, and they were super excited about being a part of this. They are the operators. If all goes forward, we'll build the building, and then they'll come in and operate it, and they have a success all over the country. And it's a really neat model that I've learned more about every day. It's a terribly expensive building is what I've learned. It costs more than medical space because of all the redundant hoods. But again, it brings the opportunity for multiple operators to come in. You can have 8 different local vendors that can come be, their startup cost is minor. And what they've said is even in the Auburn Oaks location, it's a chance to bring the students and the residents in a place to mingle. Whereas here it's a place for destination. I mean, we all talk about Newnan and all the great outdoor events. It could be another opportunity there. And how we've learned more about that. They're actually coming again to see me tomorrow to hear how successful this meeting is today. Let's see, we've talked to a couple of restaurants that are definitely interested being next door to a 125-room hotel. In that we don't really have a time frame pinned down. We know it's fairly soon, but it's kind of, they've shown interest, we've shown them where you'd be, and they're like, show us the next steps. We've engaged a legal firm, Dura & Dura, that kind of specializes in covenants and restrictions. We want to make sure that when this is built, it is not only meets all of the Newnan criteria that's made Newnan successful, but it allows us to keep the outside the way we want it to look and make it appealing. My time's up.
There you go. Sorry about that. I can't listen to you on my phone without, unless I cut it off. I can't
No,
do that.
no worries at all, no worries at all. I've also talked to a law firm here in town, Lawson and Beck, to help us begin a purchase and a sale agreement format, just in trying to continue to push this forward. If and when we get there, we'll continue to get their help in this matter. You know, why it matters, well, I mean, we've put a lot of effort in this. We're super excited to show you this, and we've got a team of people, some of them are here today, that have put a lot of effort into it, and we're really proud of what we've created. So with that, here's the plan. Let me point some things and kind of talk through it with you just to orient you. County buildings here, the main court square is there. East Broad Street, Perry Street, Spring Street. Obviously, the property is this 6± acres here. The hotel is the corner piece there that is the Marriott that y'all are familiar with. I'll show you some more detailed pictures in just a moment. Ultimately, as I read the LOI, this is what the city council would approve, is that document there. And then the renderings will show you can be a part of your approval, or you know, the experts, you tell me. But again, this was what we anticipated as, and this is very similar to what you saw initially with the LOI. The shapes have changed, the sizes have changed slightly, but the locations of everything are roughly the same. This is will be a publicly dedicated road with diagonal parking that runs all the way to Salviti from East Broad. Another publicly dedicated road that connects through to Spring Street. We've talked with the landowner here and they've agreed to allow the connection and to make it a public street. Some of the water connection, I believe, was up in this area that was pretty important. There's a sewer line that runs kind of right through the middle of it that connects to 2 or 3 businesses here. We'll relocate that during the process, yes. Go through the buildings. Again, this is the hotel, and that shape may or may not be what he finishes. That is a placeholder for that corner. He knows he wants to be in that corner, and he is bound by this street, and he's aware of all that, Mr. Emmett, but he's not really done any design work further, because he's waiting to see if we're successful here. There are 2 buildings here on the corner. I know most everyone's been to Sonoy. There's some buildings in Sonoy that we kind of mimic. They are 5,000 square feet per floor, give or take slightly. Bottom floor are retail units that can be as small as 400 square feet or 900 square feet, or can be combined to be something larger. The second floor have luxury lofts. Again, they've been super successful in Sonoy, and we're initially just copying those buildings, and then we found out because of the grades changing down this, you'll see some renderings in a second, it'll make sense, but we've had to really start to rebuild those buildings, but the intent is the same. Courtyard in the center, so you could have, again, in the Sonoy building, they go out and eat and do what have you, and the merchants use it. A little bit of dedicated parking here through, for the residents of these building and this building have up to 8 apartments, 4 per building on the top floor. This is the market, the food hall area with the big outdoor area, activity engagement area that when you come down Spring Street, and you'll see some renderings in just a second, that really showcase this building. This building ends up being the focal point, as important as the hotel. It's, again, it's going to be a gathering place for a lot of people to go enjoy the different types of foods and events. And the outdoor area is really vital to what these groups think. This building here is just another mixed-use bottom floor, office space, top floor, several units, the luxury loft pieces, and you'll see that in just a moment. This building here is an office building, 2-story. We've moved our office down to the top floor. It's about, I think, 9,000 square feet total. We'll take the top floor. We don't quite need 9,000 feet yet, but we hope to grow into it soon. So the first floor will have a little bit of piece for us, and then a couple of other locations for users. We're really, this is what we're calling the phase line between 1 and 2. We haven't put a great deal of effort into the back of it yet. We're trying to stay focused. The main focus is hotel to come to town. What does he need? How do we get him engaged and move forward? And so this space, potentially, we've talked to a user that was interested in this space. Again, that's gonna step 2 and 3 down the road. It's not something that would happen right away. This building here is a 2-story, 10,000 square feet per floor. Bottom floor, we've got a bank that's interested in coming down with a full service drive-through, so that was really the only place to put a drive-through. The top floor would be some office. We've looked at some co-working places, things like that. And then a full-service restaurant. The hotel was very hopeful that we would try to bring a restaurant to this This is the location we've shown to put it. And then the top floor above that are, again, these loft apartments. Total project may have 20 living residence areas. Don't think if we make them 2 bedrooms, obviously that takes away some of them, so it won't be any more than 20, it'll probably be closer to 14 or so. Any questions about that? And then I'll start giving some specifics.
If, assuming all your office buildings were full and your apartments were full and all that stuff, is it enough parking in there, or pretty much, you think, or
It
you
is.
gonna need extra parking?
You're exactly right. Parking's a big challenge in this. It is, it's been a challenge since day one. The, hotel desires 120 spots. What's shown on here is close to 250 spots. So it doesn't lend the parking count that you typically see. It meets the city ordinance, but again, we want the success. We've talked about options on how to do that. I know at some point, we all think there'll be a structured parking in downtown Newnan, but it won't be anytime soon. So we've managed to do this on this site. Oh, so you can hear me. I'm
I
sorry.
can't hear you on,
I'm sorry.
line.
What most likely, there's some city parking right here, which will help supplement this a little bit. We've talked several other options. We've looked at put a structured parking could go right there, but it gets tight and it doesn't get very efficient and it gets very expensive. We'd rather not do it there. Parking is a challenge, but initially, if it became a issue, this area back here, phase 2, could temporarily just be put in parking until a later date when structured parking could occur.
Well, there are side streets that feed it and not very far away. I mean, there's a lot of that around
Yes, sir.
that.
And we've helped to share that information with the hotel. The hotel's the main one that was concerned with that. And then the food hall market will have a big following. We're thinking probably half of it will be foot traffic. But we've been very aware of that. Let me think, next steps, the link kind of comes through that road right there is, or sidewalk is a wider than normal sidewalk to come through. We were putting it behind the buildings, kind of up against here, but we really thought the link needed to be more prominent and bring it right. I mean, if you're in downtown Newnan and you're on a bike, you know to stop at intersections and go slow, but again, we've made it wide enough so that it really is, it can be defined. And again, it's a great spot to bring people here. We've got areas for bike storage and what do we call them, the golf carts. There's a fancy low-speed vehicle parking, that kind of thing. So we've kind of tried to contemplate that. We've put a wall to kind of separate this a little bit, a masonry wall, so that we've got some grade challenges down this way, but it helps define that. And we can push these buildings all the way up to the back and gain some space over here. In general, that's what the plan is that we are asking y'all to consider in the future. Let me try to show you some of big picture. This initially is about a $5 million investment by us to put the infrastructure in, the storm drains, the public roads, the water, the sewer, the landscaping, all that piece. That's the initial piece. Then the development we do on phase 1 is about $20 million worth of buildings. It tends to go up every conversation we have, which is interesting, a little frightening, but the hotel investment, I'm not sure what his will be. It'll be in that range. Ultimately, there will be 150,000 square feet of new construction going in the 6-acre site or the 5-acre site. Our phase 1 would be the hotel, the 2 buildings on Broad Street, the market space, the restaurant, our office, and all the roads and sewer. If the city said, let's go, let's make this happen, that would be our focus, and it would take, if we said go today, it'd take about 2 years to have the keys ready for all that. take about 6 months to get the underground piece done, and then the building will take about another year or in a bit, something like that. We've got financial assurances from a bank. You may recognize their logo. They've seen the project and have agreed to participate in the funding of this. And then phase two is, we'll kind of fill in some other of these spaces. And I think that's it for that. That's the hotel. You've seen that picture several times. It's a beautiful hotel. Again, we stay in contact with him to make sure he's engaged. It times out really well with what he's trying to do. But we do realize that it's got to move forward in order to hit the 2-year mark. There's some steps that everyone has to do, and so, again, that's why we're here today. This is a,
Mr. Krabs, I just want to make sure for the people in the room who've not seen this before.
Yes, sir.
That's his location in Thomasville.
yes,
That is not what he's proposing in Newnan, Georgia.
Correct.
So just want to make sure that doesn't show up somewhere as, this is the hotel they want to build in Newnan, Georgia. It's not.
correct.
Okay.
It is to be similar to the
Right,
level of finish, but obviously it'll fit the site, be very, good, great point, sorry. Yeah.
Just want to make sure that's not, yeah, thank you.
But it's definitely to be built to that standard or better.
Right, sure, thank you.
And so the next pictures you'll see will be a little bit faded out so that there's lots of flexibility of what the building materials could be. This is the food hall, and I've got, again, an animation to show you at the very end when you can walk up and see these buildings. But the goal here is big outdoor area out front. We found a water tank, water tower that we think we can bring down here to name, put 57 East on it, kind of give it a destination. There's one here in town that we think we have an option on, we're working on, but again, it's a little premature. The goal is it has 4 vendors on this side, 4 vendors on this side. These doors roll up so you can come outside. It has a deck up here that could be a vent space. Unlikely, mostly it's just gonna be tables and chairs up here. I think that extends inside as well, but on the second floor, it's just seating. The downstairs in the middle is just seating as well. It's run by one individual. There's one owner or operator of this site. So he's the guy that takes care of 100% of the food, 100% of the alcohol, 100% of everything, and he's the responsible party. We've learned a lot on how the operations go, and the more we learn, the more comfortable we get, because we were initially trying to figure out how are we going to find all these people, and now we've overcome that hurdle. The building will look similar to that, all brick buildings in here. Everything's intended to be a brick building with some accent pieces. These are the loft apartment retails that are fronting Broad Street. Downstairs, or on the first floor, is the retail places that are small. The second floor have some balconies. You may have been to Sonoy and seen those. That's real similar to what they have there. This is the building on the other side of the food hall. Again, first floor would be retail or office, something like that. And the second floor could potentially be the apartments or more office if that were the demand needs it. This would be our building on the end. Again, we'll take the top floor and this end of it so that we can come and go from it. This is a picture of what the bank, and again, these buildings were, we took the old book that the paper put together from the a year of pictures and gave it to our architect, and Jefferson put together some visions and tried to pull different parts. So these buildings are supposed to be in keeping with Newnan, try to modernize it a little bit, but then again, let's celebrate the things we like. This is the restaurant space. You'd enter here, and then it has a big covered area out here, so you're sitting on the corner. The hotel's over on this side, the food market's over on this side. And then this road right here goes up to Spring Street. And that's just a picture, stepped away, nope,
That's your video.
my video, all right.
Megan, can you hit play?
This is gonna be, I don't know if we can slow it or not, but enjoy.
You can commentate, Tom.
And this is just coming down the new road with the landscaping in the middle, food hall coming up on the left, with the outdoor area there, with big outdoor activation area. This is another, the building that's a mixture of the retail and the mixed use. That's the building we'll be in, and then the first floor will have some other uses. We're hoping we can get a Jefferson to move his architecture firm here and other professional types like that. This is how the back will look so that we'll be able to meet in there. This is the bank building, potentially. Again, all these are potential what they could look like. It's a large building, 20,000 square foot, total, top and bottom. This is the restaurant space on the bottom with some covered outdoor with apartments on the top. Coming up Spring Street, and you see the commercial house in the background, has parking behind it. That's looking back at the food hall. And then you access the second floor through those doors there. Technology is really amazing how it does all this stuff nowadays. It's almost built. It's done. The hard part's done, the vision, right? But after the master plan is approved, then we start bringing more detail to this. We didn't want to go too far down this road and put colors and pieces on that because we didn't want to take the conversation away from the initial step. The initial step really is the plan according to the LOI. I mean, we can do whatever, obviously, that you like, but that's kind of that's our presentation. And any questions you may have, I'm here to, yes, sir.
I have a question, probably a silly one, but I'll ask it anyway.
Go to the last
How
slide.
important is it for a bank coming in there to have a drive-through window? It seems to me that would generate just traffic driving in to make a deposit, withdrawal, et cetera, versus generating foot traffic without the drive. I'm just curious as to why that is, and that space would be kind of cannibalized. That's kind of my observation. It doesn't make sense to me from that perspective. So maybe you can answer that for me.
Well, great question. They were very interested. There's no downtown drive-through banks left anymore in the proper. There's lots out and about. And so that was one of the requests. So we tried to figure out what building could most easily accept a drive-through. If it wasn't a drive-through for a bank, it'd be a drive-through for drop-off for covered entry into the building. Apparently it's important to a bank. Because I guess people don't like to get out.
I always look at it from the concept or the idea of what are you generating foot traffic-wise to get people out of their vehicle and to move around versus driving through and exiting and see you later.
Well, yeah, no doubt, and banks have changed so much over the years, so it's also automated and online.
Well, that's my point. It may be important to the bank now, but in 10 years,
Right.
it's there and it's not.
And it could easily be pulled out and turned into an entry, a covered entry. So again,
Or whatever.
multiple flexibility. Everything down here is built with complete flexibility to meet what the future. This is kind of a forever development. It's built to
Right.
last the test of time.
Also, just an observation with some of the placements of the building, and still I can't get around the idea of the lack of parking and solving that. So I'm not going to beat up on that too much. We all are keenly aware of that. Certainly in the phase 2 aspect of it, as I look at it, just long term, from a development side, when I look at development like that and what I've observed in my travels and living different places, how often the backside of a development can begin to integrate the surrounding area into the development,
Yes, sir.
i.e. what's on Salviti and extending over into where the Line Creek is, all that through there. So I think, in my opinion, that's all it is, or observation, that the importance of developing phase 2, or it'd be sweet that if that could all be developed as a accelerated phase one to begin to open things up along on the other side of the tracks, so to speak, and also the other businesses that may be attracted to a large development like that to generate a larger footprint, more collateral type development.
Right. No doubt, the thing we really don't want to happen is to build buildings and have them sit empty. That would be much worse. So the way we've tried to do it is we've tried to pick the initial 3 or 4 buildings, build them, and then have the demand saying this one's coming and start them. So it's an ongoing process that maybe it lasts a little longer, but you never really stop improving it until you're complete. There's a group that has shown some interest, a medical group that won't possibly be there, but they're not sure what it'll be, and they're concerned about parking as well. And so we've talked to some surrounding properties to potentially see if parking can happen nearby. It's interesting, if we don't park at the front door, then we don't think it counts, whereas downtown Newnan has lots of parking, it's just not always at your front
Everybody wants
door.
to walk.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. So, I don't anticipate that being a parking lot for very long. If it was, then all of a sudden, we realize we need to find a better solution. I'm not sure if that really addresses it, but our goal is to
Mine was
build it
more
along
just,
the way.
it was just an opinion of what I've seen and what I could see coming down the road.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
Yeah, and I don't want to beat up on parking, but it is kind of significant in downtown because it's the one thing that I've heard, even on DDA for 10 years, parking. And now to look at, this is beautiful, by the way, but to look at one that's already straining, going out of the ground parking,
Right.
it's kind of hard to justify to the citizens why we are moving this forward. But when we do Spring Street, you've got parking spaces, it looks like they're on the into the building. So those,
Obviously, that won't happen.
Yeah, okay.
It'll align and it,
yeah, all right. So those guys, right now, that's parking.
Yes, sir.
So you'll lose a little bit of parking by doing the street.
yes, sir.
Where do they get their parking back?
They will get parking back in this development.
Okay, so you've got in the 250 spaces, is that phase one or is that phase two?
That is everything that's shown on the site.
So phase one and two, even though two won't come till later, so phase one has how many spaces?
Probably 200.
200,
Yes, sir.
okay. And the hotel needs 100,
120.
120 of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the commercial house is now going to use some of those 80,
Yes, sir.
okay? And then they probably are going to want to build a building on their
Yes, they
newfound
will.
lot, okay?
No
So
doubt.
they're going to want to use spaces. and
Yes,
they're
sir.
Probably, that's part of your deal you cut with them is, hey, you
Right.
can use us. So they're going to eat into that extra 80.
Mm-hmm.
So where does everybody else park?
One thing, and I interject
So anyway,
something.
that would be my one thing. Is,
Sure.
As you hear me, I would want to hear that I do feel like structured parking is a long-term solution for Newnan. And you mentioned it, and I'm glad you mentioned it, because it supports already Perry Street, which is a cool street. And I think if it had more parking, it could be used even more.
Yes, sir.
So I would totally think structured parking would be part of what I would vision as a city councilman we should look at this site.
Right.
We already own it, and it would serve this site, it would serve Perry Street, it would serve that side of Newnan that needs stuff. And long-term, I think we would win from having enough parking.
It could fit. We've done a plan that comes out and connects to the hotel, and then you drive under it to keep the connectivity.
Yeah.
We've done a plan that's shown
Yeah,
that.
that way we've got something that really has legs for the future.
It's challenging to do, not to actually accomplish, but to make the numbers work on that.
One thing with the hotel, a lot of the parking spaces they want are the same ones the offices use in the day. So you don't have to have total, you duplicate a lot of that.
Yes, sir, no doubt about it. And he was very clear that they don't have to have 140 adjacent to them. If they've got some parking that's over here, if they have this, they can count this parking in other areas that are street public parking. They obviously would prefer to have it all locked up in theirs, but right this minute, that's not the case. And so we've got means to support the phase one as drawn with parking for that. It gets challenging, and if you're going to put in a structured parking, you'd rather do it sooner than later. But again, a parking structure is a fairly large number.
Anyone else?
A couple questions. Accepting the hotel, how many housing units is this roughly?
20 max, 20, probably 16. 20 single bedroom, so if you made it a double bedroom, it would be, but that's the number we're looking at.
Okay, would they be like owned or rented or leased?
They would all be rented or leased by one group. One
Okay.
group will control all of those.
So it's
Okay.
all loft apartments.
Loft apartment, yeah. And again, it's identical to what they have in Sonoy, and they've done smaller ones, but very well done. And the goal is to get, you know, almost $3,000 a month rent. So you're definitely putting something there that is a sought after and so they're very well done.
Yeah, and then my other comment and thought is, with the buildings backing right up onto the property line there against that brick wall, masonry wall up by the railroad track,
Yes, sir.
it's kind of like, and the side, like what Mr. Thomason was talking about over there
Yes, sir.
on the backside of phase two, is kind of like the forgotten backside. And what the neighbors on the other side of the tracks would have to look at, looking at, you know,
Sure.
and that kind of stuff. And also the concern of, you know, and I know it's just you're drawing, you know, the backside of the hotel. You're walking, you know, you'd be coming down that one street there. I can't remember which one that was. On the backside of the hotel there.
Broad Street there?
No, on the backside.
Oh, Spring?
Thompson there.
Thompson?
I mean, it was kind of like, you know, just a big brick wall. You're like, ugh, you know, monolithic. It's kind of always the backside always gets forgotten. And then the other part of that is, and it dovetails in with the parking, is what would it be to keep anybody necessarily from wanting to park on, what's the name of the road there on the backside of the railroad tracks? And then just walking over the railroad tracks in all sorts of various places, other than the brick wall.
Sure.
But, you know, again, causing a hazard potentially with the link, you know,
the
coming through
link-
would hopefully alleviate that. But the railroad company is a whole nother issue.
Sure.
And that's just some of my thoughts and concerns with that.
Well, the pedestrian walking, we want to encourage that, and walking across the track, that shouldn't be a hazard.
The grade doesn't
Well,
allow it.
in the right spots.
In the right spot, yes, sir. And the wall is there to, several reasons. Kind of control sound as best we can. It's not going to be a massively tall wall. I think it sticks up 4 feet above grade. We've got a big grade issue. We got a gain coming up here, so it's more, as much a retaining wall as anything else. Sound against the track is, so these are the backs of the buildings here. They'll have windows all over them, but you're trying to shield the rest of the development from the train, and the train is pretty prevalent. The hotel, we initially drew this, I think we may have showed you, had the hotel over here. We thought it was great for the height to be here, but his users only come for a day and leave, and they don't have time to adjust to the methodical sounds of a train. How about that? So that's why we position them this way. When you enter, and we can expand the model out to show you coming in Broad Street, what it'll look like. With this technology, you can actually see what exactly it's gonna look like. But it's just next steps. I don't think it's intended to shield you from the other. It's helping to define here we are.
Yeah.
The goal is not to not do phase two. The goal is to start phase one, make it super successful so that you can entice someone to come here and put a bigger presence. Another Bonnell building could come and put their corporate headquarters back there, something, and you could put 3 stories instead of 2 because of your grades, and really, then you definitely need structured parking because of the numbers that want to go there.
Yeah.
So it's trying to plan this for, if it's 2 years to get the first buildings up, it's another 2 years to get the rest of the buildings up. So 5 years from now, what will this be attracting? And if someone came along right away during the process, you'd say, absolutely, here you go. But we don't want to do it and undershoot what our opportunity is.
Yeah, and anyway, just thoughts of, as you're going through it. My only other thought was, you talk about 6 months to do the below the ground stuff, and that would take into drainage and storm water, because that's been a huge issue in that whole.
It is, and it's a majority of the cost. I mean, we're carrying almost $1 million to deal with just the storm drain issues. All of it gets buried, all the storm drains get buried up underneath this double lane here. Again, this development will keep fees and so it's not the city's responsibility to keep it up. It's this development's responsibility to maintain it, but it is gonna be under future, public property. And then the water and the sewer all have to come down there and be brought through there as well. So it takes, and we have to get it at the right elevation. So, there's a lot that happens once, if y'all approve this, then the engineer starts working on the site version to begin to define that. That part has not happened yet.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So to recap, I think what we want to see you work on more than anything is the parking issue.
Yep. Yes, sir.
That's a hard lift, we understand that.
Right.
But we would like to see what that looks like. What's the number 2 issue here? I mean, number 1, I think, is the parking, for sure. But the timing, we'll need to get back with you on the timing. Will we get back together to make a decision? I know we need to vote on this, but today was a work session, and we appreciate all of the hard work and effort you and your team have put into this.
Oh, well, thank you. We're excited
I know
about
it's been
the opportunity.
a lot of hours. So, any other questions from council? All right, Mr. Grimes?
Thank you.
Any last comments? You good?
No, look forward to answering any other questions y'all have down the road.
Okay,
Please feel
thank you.
free.
If there are no other comments, the work session is completed. I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion is second, we adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you being here today.